an original MCM production.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting of the Operations Committee to order this morning, and I would ask the Commission Secretary to record the roll.
Commissioner Bohl?
Here.
Commissioner Devine is expected. Commissioner Johnson is excused. Commissioner Martinsek?
Here.
Commissioner Krieger?
Here.
Commissioner Hermes?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Our next item agenda is approval of the proceeding from the regular committee meeting held on July 10th, 2017.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Moved by Commissioner Martinsek, seconded by Commissioner Bohl. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We move on to organization and administration, and I'll turn it over to Kevin Schaefer.
Good morning, Commissioners. Welcome back after our month off. We do have two Green Luminary videos and awards that we want to show today, so I'll turn it over to Chris Schultz, and he will take the stage.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. Chris Schultz, Senior Project Manager in Planning, Research, and Sustainability. My guest today is Scott Wollenzine. He's the Assistant Director of Facility Services at Northwestern Mutual Life Company. The Northwest Mutual Green Roof System covers over 3/4 of an acre, and it's capable of keeping over 500,000 gallons of stormwater out of the combined sewer system annually. It's overlooked by 32 floors of office space, conference rooms, a fitness center, and a variety of large multi-use conference rooms on the top level. The visibility is a critical component of incorporating elements of nature and the outdoors in a successful working environment, and it's a powerful tool in raising awareness of the practical solutions that are available for constructing sustainable stormwater management facilities. Green Roof System is also visible from a number of surrounding buildings, including the U.S. Bank Building.
Sustainability in general is part of the way we think, and it was a part of the design process right from the start. How can we maximize our opportunity for a sustainable building environment? When you see some of the aerial shots of the roof, they're quite stunning. It is a very large green roof. As a matter of fact, 36,400 square feet of our roof is green. It was an opportunity for us to leverage the space in a way that will help the community. The green roof will actually retain stormwater runoff to the tune of more than 512,000 gallons a year, which is pretty amazing, obviously subject to how much rain we get. But it's going to be a nice sustainability type feature of the building that we'd like to talk about. It's going to prevent, a lot of runoff from the lake, but not only that, aesthetically, we wanted to maintain as much of a green space as we can. And frankly, for our neighbors who actually can look down on the roof, we've maintained some of that green look as well. From our perspective, green infrastructure is efficiency. It means different things to different people, but when you build a building of this size, any small incremental improvements you can make are pretty substantial for the community.
Scott, on behalf of Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, I'd like you to receive the August Green Luminary Award. There you go.
Just real briefly, it's been a great journey for not only Northwestern Mutual, but partnering partnering with the MMSD and what this is going to mean to the community and for all of us going forward in terms of education and awareness. We're just so appreciative that you're recognizing Northwestern Mutual in this manner, and appreciate the partnership on the project as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be right back because we have another award.
Yes.
Smart enough to bring it.
Yes, John, I recognize.
Before he leaves, I just want to really congratulate the leadership, and the magnitude of your company is well known throughout the world, but to have that leadership placed in front of everybody here in Milwaukee, especially downtown Milwaukee, is significant, it's substantial, and please know that we appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to September. Not seated next to me. I thought he would be, but perhaps he was stopped at the train or something. Would have been John Scripp, president of the North Point Lighthouse Friends Group. North Point Lighthouse Treatment Train Project can capture up to 70,000 gallons of water where it falls through a number of different green infrastructure strategies. In addition to rain gardens and porous pavers, the project features one of the first known applications of regenerative stormwater conveyance, or RSC, in Wisconsin. The RSC design maintains the lake park intention of nature-based design by maximizing on-site materials and mimicking the existing headwater stream design. RSCs have proven effective green infrastructure alternatives in other coastal environments, and this project will be a model for expanding Milwaukee's and Wisconsin's GI toolbox for both the public and for professionals. It's not only an effective project, but it looks great as well.
The North Point Lighthouse that's been located there since 1888. We're here on the bluff. The water that comes from the top goes down. We're about a football field, maybe 150 yards from the lake directly out from us. We saw the Bradford Beach restoration occur and learned the science about where the contamination was coming from that was closing the beach, that it was coming from local stormwater. Our site is between two ravines. Those ravines go directly down to the beach. We could see the dots being connected. At the same time, Milwaukee County came to us and said, we'd like to look at a process called regenerative stormwater conveyance, RSC. RSCs could be called STEP, like STEP, pools. That's where the water goes. If you interrupt it, you can change the result at the bottom. So it goes down to the bottom where it sits in a rain garden. We have our rain gardens that absorb water fixed on the idea of a permeable pavers. If I were to throw a bucket over that driveway with pavers on it, you'd see that it doesn't go any farther than when the water hits the pavers. If you want to really preserve the lake as well as the people who sailed on it, tell people that this kind of thing should be important to them wherever they are and have stormwater.
I will make sure to get the award in John's hands. Thought he would be here. Apologize that he's not.
Thank you.
We'd like to congratulate both recipients of the Green Luminaries Awards, and I'm sure Bill Graffman will be getting some advertising or media attention out to also recognize them. So thank you. And green infrastructure is one of the important elements that we do here at MMSD. So congratulations to North Point.
Thank you.
Anything else, Kevin?
Now that concludes the report.
We move on to our new business. Item number 1 on the agenda is contract number TS 2640, and that's an on-call engineering services for conveyance facilities. And I see Mike Martin here to report on this for us.
Morning, Commissioners. Mike Martin, Director of Technical Services. The Commissioners requested to authorize the Executive Director to execute on behalf of the District contract TS 2640 on-call engineering services for conveyance facilities with Symbiont Science Engineering Construction in an amount not to exceed $300,000. We fairly routinely come to the commission with requests for on-call engineering services. This is another one of those. We have maybe 4 or 5 in works focused on different areas: conveyance, water course, water reclamation facilities, electrical engineering, and so on. And again, this one is focused on our conveyance or our collection system. We do have an ongoing need for engineering services on a smaller scale throughout the year. Generally, we use this type of contract maybe 5 to 10 times for relatively small amounts, $5,000 to $50,000 typical. And they're for small capital projects, some material capital repair replacement or MCR&R, or some general technical support to help us through an issue. The advantage that this provides to us, it provides us a quick and cost-effective way to respond to those engineering needs, as opposed to having to go out, prepare a full-blown request for proposal, solicit proposals, and then go through a selection process. We can quickly work with the consultant, develop the scope, get the costs, and then proceed with the service in a short order. So it's very cost-effective and time-effective for us. These general type of services that we need: planning work, preliminary engineering. We'll do a little bit of design, maybe some technical memorandums, develop a small plan, specifications, and so on. And they may assist us during the construction itself if that's necessary. We expect this contract to last about 3 years, so we plan to spend in the neighborhood of $100,000 a year. And they're budgeted in individual projects, so we don't budget it under this contract itself. Can answer any questions.
Yes. Commissioner Martinsek.
I just want to thank you for adding the page onto our materials. One of the things I've been asking for is to see a little bit of a history on these companies when we provide contracts, to see if what they proposed as far as SWIMBY participation and what they actually achieved. And I think I appreciate the SWIMBY compliance piece that you've added to our commission materials. I think it's really helpful. I would note that this contractor did really, really well, exceeding goals until the last year where they fell a little short. So I would encourage them, since this work, I assume, comes a contract at a time or a job at a time, I would just encourage them to make sure they focus on meeting their SWIMBY goals as they proceed with the work that they're granted. And thank you for the information. It's very helpful.
Any other questions?
Chair, I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Hermes and seconded by Commissioner Ball for approval. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Is there anyone opposed? The motion passes. Item number 2, file number 17-080-9. It's an award of contract for South Shore Water Reclamation Facility. And once again, I'll turn to Mr. Martin.
2-part request. First, the commissioners requested to award and to direct the executive director to execute on behalf of the district contract S06029C01 South Shore Water Reclamation Facility medium voltage switchgear replacement project with Pieper Electric Incorporated in an amount of $2,859,980. Further, the commission has requested to decrease the total project cost for project S06029 South Shore medium voltage switchgear replacement project by $787,172 for an amended total project cost of $3,747,894, and to make a corresponding change to the total project cost for project M99001 allowance for cost and schedule changes. So at South Shore, obviously, it utilizes electricity, and as part of that, the electrical distribution system, we have medium voltage switchgear, which helps distribute the 4160 volt electrical power within South Shore. There's large circuit breakers within a steel building. It's 30 plus years old, and that facility is nearing the end of its useful service life. We're finding it increasingly difficult to find replacement parts for the switchgear. Does not have modern safety features, which is important in electrical equipment. The building itself is corroding. Again, if that switchgear fails, we lose power, can't operate the plant. So it's a critical piece of equipment. There's also a motor control center, which is further within the electrical distribution system. Motor control center itself, it contains devices which allows us to start individual motors, circuit breakers, and disconnects. It's at a lower voltage, 480 volt, and it is more direct to the specific equipment, allows us to turn on off that type of equipment, the motors and so on. MCC 8 is important for the operation of the digesters at South Shore. Similar to the switchgear, it's 30 plus years old, similar past the end of its useful service life. One of the cubicles has already failed, it's unusable. There's some redundancy in there, so we're not at a critical point, but it also does, the fact that it has failed presents a safety issue. Just showing the location of the switchgear and the motor control center at South Shore. There's some pictures of the equipment itself. Glamorous looking equipment. So the scope of this contract is to replace the switchgear with modern equipment in a new building. There's cabling between the switchgear and some load centers, then also replacing the motor control center with current technology. Then we're also doing some electrical studies. They have to provide the right type of safety labeling, safety and hazard labeling on the equipment. So once we do this, then we'll do a study and label that equipment properly. Duration of this contract is 20 months. The project bid did come in less than budgeted by about $790,000, and we're reducing the cost. And then Veolia makes a $30,000 contribution to the project consistent with the O&M agreement. Can answer any questions.
Do the commissioners have any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Dan?
Thank you. Just a question on the 30,000. I missed the explanation of that.
Sure. Yeah. So within our operating contract with Veolia Water, there's it's called a material capital repair replacement, where if we're replacing equipment, Veolia has an obligation to pay for the first $10,000 towards that equipment replacement. In this case, we've looked at it and determined that there's 3 pieces of specific equipment that's being replaced, so they'll contribute $30,000. So.
Commissioner Martinsek. Moved by Commissioner Martinsek and seconded by Commissioner Bohl for approval of this item. Seeing no further discussion, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion passes. We'll move on to item 3. File number 17-081-9. Which is authorizing the executive director to execute a purchase order for material capital repair of replacement number 1056 at the Jones Island Water Reclamation Facility. Mike?
The Commissioners requested to authorize the Executive Director to execute a purchase order with Veolia Water Milwaukee for material capital repair replacement number 1056, Jones Island Water Reclamation Facility, Interplant Solids Pipeline, Pump number 3 replacement, and not to exceed $162,167. Some background on the Interplant Solids Pipeline system. We generate sludge at Jones Island, and that sludge gets transferred from Jones Island down to South Shore. There's a set of pipelines between the 2 plants. And at South Shore, that sludge gets digested, produces energy, which we use for power production. So there is the pipeline itself. There's Jones Island. There's South Shore. So it doesn't happen by gravity. We have to pump it down to South Shore. There's some Interplant Solids Pipeline, or ISP, pump sets located within the thickening facility at Jones Island, and that's the subject of this commission request. So there's some pump sets. There's 2 200 horsepower pumps in series at Jones Island. In May, one of those pumps in pump set number 3 had a catastrophic failure. That pump set is 30 years old. There's redundancy, so we've been able to continue to operate with just one pump set down. So here's pictures of the pumps. and motors. There's a motor and a pump associated with pump set number 3. And we had shaft damage and motor coupling damage. So the purpose of this project is to restore the system back to its full capacity and redundancy. What we're doing is replacing the failed pump, but also both motors and the pump sets. Both motors will recommend a replacement due to their age, and then the operating motor, the one that continues to operate, we'll use that as a spare for other pump sets. So we'll have a spare now in case we have a failure of a motor on any of this set or any of the other sets. Veolia Water competitively bid that work. 2 bidders. Ahern was the low bidder. It's within budget. Just note on that 83% of that contract is equipment, so there was limited opportunity for participation by small women minority firms. Veolia Water will make a $10,000 contribution. They will oversee and manage this contract, and it's about a 5-month long duration. Can I answer any questions?
Chairman, I move approval.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hermes and seconded by Commissioner Ball to approve this item. Seeing no other questions or discussion, I'm going to call the vote on that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Motion passes. Commissioner from West House, Tan Devine. Were you holding up your hand? I'm
No,
sorry.
I was not, sorry.
Oh, okay, thank you. Therefore, we'll move on to item number 4, which is file number 17-082-9. And that's regarding a funding agreement for a City of Franklin private property inflow reduction project.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Karen Sands, Director of Planning, Research, and Sustainability here at the District. The Commission is requested to authorize and to direct the Executive Director to execute on behalf of the District funding agreement FR07 in the amount of $465,830 for work outlined in Work Plan FR07 as submitted by the City of Franklin under Project M03044 Private Property Inflow and Infiltration Program, or PPII. So, in summary, over a 4-year period, 3-year period, 64 laterals have been rehabilitated and 12 foundation drains have been disconnected in an area of the city of Franklin. The project area has a history of surface drainage issues, and the city is proposing to combine our PPI work with green infrastructure for a sustainable water management project that will save money and be a better solution in the long run. So I'm going to show you 2 maps. This is just a general vicinity map. You can see the polygon is the project area, and we're looking at just south of Rawson and north of Drexel. Zeroing in on it, we're between, Madison Boulevard and Missouri Avenue. A little background, I already mentioned the work that's already been done. And through that work that was very successful, the city was able to reduce II by 80 to 90%, so it was a really great project. However, in the neighborhood, the home lots are very level. Drainage occurs very slowly off-site, and it's currently taken care of by storm ditch drainage where standing water for long periods of time is an occurrence. So there have been persistent surface drainage issues that this project hopes to address. The city expended $26,000 so far on preliminary engineering. The project that they've come up with would reconstruct ditches to facilitate infiltration of the water, and it would direct drainage to a centralized bioretention, or what we call bioswale sometimes, basin. The cost so far that's been authorized for the work is $171,858, and that's under our Green Solutions funding in June. This request is for $465,000, almost $466,000, for a total construction cost of about $637,700. And I know that math is off by about $12 there, but we rounded. The tentative schedule is that bidding would occur this fall, and then construction would begin later this fall and then continue into the spring. And if you approve this request, that would encumber 77% of Franklin's PPII funds through 2017. This just repeats the resolution that you have before you. And if there are any questions, I note not only is Jerome, the project manager, here, but also Glenn from the city and Steve from Ruckert and Milky, the consulting firm. Approval?
Okay, it's moved for approval by Commissioner Martinsek. Were you going to second that?
No, I was going to raise a question.
Okay, can I get a second and then I'll go to the question?
Second.
Okay, and seconded by Commissioner, what?
That was me.
Devine, okay. I couldn't tell who said that there, but now we have a question from Commissioner Bowe.
Thank you. Karen, can you maybe articulate a little better how this is impacting public property infiltration and inflow? To me, this seems like it's more of a surface issue rather than a sanitary issue. I'm just wondering where that connection comes in.
Stormwater issue.
I have the experts here. I'm going to have them articulate it better than I would be able to, if that's all right. If you want to introduce yourselves first, please.
Jerome Flogel, Senior Project Manager for the district.
Glenn Morrow, City Engineer, Director of Public Works in Franklin.
This proposal was presented by City of Franklin as a follow-up work to the private property work that was done. There were surface drainage issues out there clearly when we initiated the project. Part of the private property work that was done out there was disconnecting foundation drains. At the time we did that, the city chose to discharge those to the surface and also to the stormwater ditch. So that work, again, noting in the document is reduced by 80 to 90%. It's part of what we anticipate when we go in the private property work, and certainly lessons learned is that water doesn't just go away. It goes a different path, follows a different route. So with that, the work here is put more of that water on the surface, and the surface drainage continues to be an issue. Clearly within the policy, the city could come back, and in which they did, which was submit a request to do an additional PPI work, which would be install conveyance, basically gray infrastructure for this, and convey that stormwater either to stormwater if they had in its stormwater, storm sewer. In this case, it'd be conveyed downstream, further down to a location downstream where it can find its way to the local surface water feature, which is a creek nearby. When they did a cost evaluation of that, they realized that there was probably a cheaper solution, and that's where the idea came in to join the green infrastructure concept with the private property program. By policy, we certainly could have approved the conveyance system, which would have been a pipe, a header system behind the curb, hook all those foundation drains to that pipe and convey it, again, kind of old-fashioned ways downstream. We chose to do this in a green infrastructure way for about half the price of that header system.
Okay. So it sounds like to me that in the efforts to remediate some of the sanitary sewer issues, a secondary stormwater problem was exacerbated, and that this is dealing with the secondary issue. I don't know if that was initially envisioned in the guidelines of revenues for PPII. I suppose the administration has proffered this up in that way. Are any of these items brought before the TAT for review? So summarily, the administration, if there's a community in the district that makes a submission, do you just simply, for the most part, pass it through? Is there a review? Is there ever an opportunity for rejection by the administration?
Jerome's the administration in this cycle.
Yeah, there's a couple steps on that, and I would say this particular project in concept and then also in policy did certainly secondarily go through the TAT. Normal procedure when the work plans are submitted, they first come across my desk, and then there's greater review internally of district staff, which reviews not only the technical aspects but policy, legal issues. Then if anything above that arises, it certainly can go to the TAT. I'd say the TAT review kind of preceded this actual work plan being submitted about 2 years ago. Glenn was part of a subcommittee of the TAT from communities that were requesting some flexibility in the private property program and how they use those funds to solve some of these issues, some of it secondary issues with stormwater. And through that, the policy was revised. It was approved last year through TAT review and then ultimately through the commission, whereby we, I guess you could say, relaxed the stormwater components of the private property. We gave them more flexibility to decide how to solve some of the stormwater issues that were directly related to private property, and in this case, certainly on the periphery being connected, but it's certainly associated and influenced by the private property sanitary issues. So specifically with that, we gave them the options where we would do some cost share funding on stormwater that was within the right-of-way. We also gave them some flexibility when they had the participation from the residents to do that on private or on public property, kind of sharing where that infrastructure resides on either side of the line in the right-of-way, as long as it was kind of solving the issue at hand.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. I don't know that that's the most sound way to deal with monies that are earmarked or geared toward sanitary issues. That being said, if it's within the guidelines, it is within the guidelines. So, thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Hermes.
Jerome, I'm a bit confused though on, is this coming from a green infrastructure program or the PPII?
There's funding from both. So there's 171,000, almost 172,000 that was passed through commission in June from the Green Solutions. And while there's no hard boundaries within the work plan, that was kind of intended to fund the downstream end of this, which is the bioretention facility where all this water is being routed. And then the additional funding, the 465,000, almost 466,000 from the private property program, will be materialistically funding the conveyance issue of this, basically rebuilding the stormwater ditches to function more like green infrastructure and convey the water to the retention facility. So it's a cost share. Neither one of the components could be clearly funded solely out of either program. So bringing the funding together kind of facilitated the entire solution for the problem.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Anna, I think we had a motion and a second already.
Correct.
Okay. So at this point then, I would call the motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes.
Very much.
Thank you. That concludes our new business agenda for today. Unless, Kevin, there's anything you want to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, so motion for adjournment would be in order?
No move.
Moved by Commissioner Hermes, seconded by Commissioner Martinsek. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We heard ayes. We are adjourned.
Good morning. I want to convene the meeting agenda and the meeting for the Policy and Finance Personnel Committee to today, Monday, September 11th, 2017. We'll record the roll. Secretary?
Commissioner Bohl?
Here.
Commissioner Eli is excused. Commissioner Perez?
Present.
Commissioner Swan?
Here.
Commissioner Manzanet?
Here.
Commissioner Hermes?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Outstanding. Approval of the proceedings of the regular committee meeting held on July 10th, our last meeting, July 10th, 2017.
So move. Second.
We have a motion and a second, appropriately done by both Commissioner Bohl and Commissioner Swan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none. The item is approved. We're going to begin with unfinished business. So we're going to go with item number 5, 17-052-5, approval of the 2017 Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District Affirmative Action Plan. I'll turn it over to staff.
Morning, Candace Richards, Human Resources Manager. A couple of meetings ago, you requested that we include Milwaukee County utilization or availability data in our affirmative action plan. That has been done. So we have 2 sets of data that would include data for the PSMA as well as exclusively for Milwaukee County. So that has been added to the plan. So we're here to ask for your approval at this time.
We presented the graphics for the comparables in the June commission meeting, so this is the actual plan approval following up on that.
Kevin, staff, just a quick question. Is this a precedent that we're moving forward with, that is going to be established moving forward?
We'll use this moving forward, that's correct.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ball, seconded appropriately by Commissioner Hermes. I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, the item is approved. Thank you. We'll turn to new business. We'll begin with item number 6, 17-083-9, amend the 2017 capital budget and create a budget for C04011 Martha Washington Drive, Upper Parkway, 18-inch Metropolitan Interceptor sewer rehabilitation. And I'll remind everyone that this item will require 2/3 affirmative on the commission, on the full commission decision. I'll turn it over to staff.
Morning, Mike Martin, Director of Technical Services. The Commission is requested to amend the 2017 capital budget and create project C04011 Martha Washington Drive, Upper Parkway, 18-inch Metropolitan Interceptor sewer rehabilitation with a total project cost of $351,849 and to make a corresponding decrease to the total project cost for project M99, allowance for cost and schedule changes. So the Metropolitan Interceptor sewers, it's our collection system. We own that MIS system. We have about 360 miles of sewers, and that MIS system conveys wastewater from the municipally owned sewers to both our water reclamation facilities and the deep tunnel. The Martha Washington Upper Parkway MIS itself, and I'll have a map here in a second, is located in the eastern part of Wauwatosa. The MIS is nearly 100-year-old clay pipe, so it's quite old. Here's the general area. There's Burleigh, State Street down here, Vliet, Holly Road, Wauwatosa Avenue, and kind of focus in, it's down in this area. There's Upper Parkway. That's Martha Washington Boulevard. So back in July, we had a sanitary sewer overflow during a heavy rain event. That SSO occurred within this segment that I just showed the map for. After looking at that, televising the MIS, we determined that that SSO was caused by tree roots, created a blockage and reduced capacity. And obviously as the flow increased, the MIS backed up and discharged out through the top of a manhole. So we're recommending creating this project to reduce the risk of an SSO. We'll extend the life of the MIS. It'll also extend the life of the 18-inch MIS by at least 50 years. So that scope of the project includes project management. We'll evaluate the MIS condition. We'll identify and select a way to rehabilitate that pipe. Again, the roots get in through cracks in the pipe. So we're looking at ways to rehabilitate that sewer. Then develop bid documents, perform rehab. So that's just the general scope. Just note that the project cost, their planning level, plus or minus 30 to 50%, and this based on our past experience with cured-in-place pipeline projects. We're also requesting to create that project now, which is ahead of the 2018 capital budget, to allow us to start the engineering immediately and then expedite the project completion. So normally we would have put this in the 2018 budget, but we wanted to go ahead and get a head start on this project. Can answer any questions.
Questions, comments?
Mr.
Chair, I move approval.
We have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second by Commissioner Swan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None? The item is approved for recommendation for the full commission. We'll turn to item number 7.
Good morning again. Karen Sands, Director of Planning, Research, and Sustainability. The Commission is requested to authorize the Executive Director to execute an Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement, or ICA, between the Village of River Hills and the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District for the reconstruction and abandonment of the Dean Road Extended Milwaukee River Crossings Metropolitan Interceptor Sewer in an amount not to exceed $277,200 for the abandonment of the 12-inch and 36-inch Dean Road Extended Sewers, and $287,800 for the new 10-inch sewer and lateral inspection and lining. So there's a map attached to your commission document, and I'll have that map on the 4th slide, but at any time that might be useful for you to look at as well. A little background, the MIS segments that we're talking about here are located in easements that cross the Milwaukee River, so there are 2 crossings. The sewers, actually one of them isn't operating, and the other operates as a local sewer, not a regional MIS. The one that's operating serves only 2 properties, and the flows indicate that there's inflow and infiltration happening at both pipes. The recommended action that we'll talk about here would reduce inflow and infiltration, particularly at the river crossings, reduces our operation and maintenance costs, and eliminates existing sewer rehab and repair costs that we would be facing. So the alternatives to what we're recommending here are doing nothing and continuing to let significant inflow and infiltration into the pipe that we then have to treat downstream, or to line the 12-inch pipe, the one that's still active, but that would be a more expensive alternative. So the recommended alternative has some interplay with another project that's going on right now. It's a study called the North Shore MIS project, where we're looking at conveying flows on the North Shore of our region. We're looking at alternatives as part of that study. That would include storage and upsizing the MIS pipe. So this project that we're talking about today could actually help the other project that has to deal with greater capacity issues if we can reduce the inflow and infiltration that these pipes are taking in. So abandoning the Dean Road sewer will reduce our flows to the North Shore and in turn help our MIS study. So this is the map that I talked about. I have a little cheat sheet map here. The top pipe is a 36-inch that flows under the Milwaukee River, and the bottom one is a 12-inch that's active. Those 2 long pipes would be abandoned, and then what you see in blue, there's really only one sort of pipe segment, and then there's the inset is sort of a blow up of the area, so you can see what's going on. We would construct almost a 400-foot section, or have that constructed there. We wouldn't actually do it, it would be River Hills. So the scope of the project is to construct a new 397-foot, 10-inch local sewer, that light blue pipe that I showed you, and to abandon the other 2 pipes that cross the river. So there would no longer be any crossing of the river that allows inflow and infiltration into our system. To get this accomplished, there would be an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with River Hills. We're negotiating the terms for reconstruction, abandonment, and transfer. And the documents are being reviewed by district legal staff now. In sum, the district will do a couple of things. We will reimburse for reconstruction and abandonment costs. That would be less if we were to line the pipe. We would transfer easements upon completion, and in return, River Hills would oversee the design, construction, accept new sewer and abandon sewer and manholes, and that would relieve district staff of having to do a project. They would also supply documentation for payment once the project is complete. They would accept easements for new and abandoned sewers and manholes so that we could access facilities if we needed to, and they would provide us with as-built drawings. So in sum, the total request is for $565,000. That's the breakdown. The project would be complete in 14 months from start, and in terms of O&M savings, it would save us a little over $1,000 a year.
Kevin and Steph, I had a question on the term that you use, abandoning the pipes. I mean, describe that. Is that just you shut it down and for future use it's still there, and that's the reason for the need for the easements?
So Mickey Clappis-Sullivan is here. She's the project manager and an engineer on the project, and she can describe to you proper abandonment.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mickey Clappis-Sullivan, Manager of Engineering Planning. So the 12-inch pipe, the proper abandonment that should take place would be to basically block it off at both ends of the pipe. The 36-inch has to be filled. So as Karen said, it's not an active pipe right now, but it was never properly abandoned when a project that we did in the 80s took the flow away from that pipe. So it's basically sitting empty and it's allowing infiltration to come in. So they would put a flowable fill material into the pipe, which would stop any water from getting into it.
Mr. Chair.
Question?
Yeah. Do you feel that the capacity is going to be adequate going to 10-inch? Obviously, you do.
Yeah, there's 2 homes connected to that pipe right now. So a 10-inch pipe is more than adequate.
We have a 12 in there now.
Yes. It used to convey flow from the city of Brown, or the village of Brown Deer, the city of Milwaukee, and River Hills. Those 2 pipes used to convey flow from all those communities. And then that project I mentioned in the 80s took a lot of that flow over to one of our 72 MIS that's to the west of this location. So an 8-inch pipe would be adequate for more than adequate for the 2 homes, but because of the slopes in the area, a 10-inch has to be the pipe we install.
Thank you.
Question from Commissioner Martin. Oh, Martin, sorry.
That's okay, Chris.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not quite understanding the switch in ownership for $1,100 a year, basically for, it's like 200 years to, I don't get the value to the district of transfer of ownership. Can you explain that a little?
Sure. The O&M costs are just a general cost that we use an average of what general O&M happens in the district sewer system. The real savings to the district is reducing the I&I that's going into the sewers that we're actually treating at the plants. So based on videos that were taken within the last 10 years, the 12-inch pipe has about 50 gallons per minute, which is a significant amount of flow in it, which is a lot more than the 2 homes that are connected to it should produce. And there's several inches of flow that's going into the 36-inch. So all that water goes into our system and then we treat it at the plants. So
I get the value of that. What I don't understand is along with this is like a ownership transfer. It's going from district owned, we're basically handing it over to River Hills. I don't get what the advantage to the district is of that ownership shift, not of the project itself. I get that point.
Going into the future, this pipe will be owned and operated by River Hills, and so we won't have any maintenance requirements for it. It'll be a pipe that, right now, it actually should be a River Hills pipe, but over the years, it's been an MIS. We've done this in several other locations around the region. We found over historic development these segments of pipe that we have as MIS, a regional sewer, but it really should be a local sewer. So by turning it over to River Hills, the rest of the constituents in the region will not be paying for the maintenance of that system. It'll just be paid for by River Hills.
Gotcha.
You said that there are other ones in the district that we need to address?
In the future, as we move forward, there will be. We've already done one in Whitefish Bay, and there's been a couple of others that we've done. So we've been working on this. It's not something that's easy because the community that accepts the pipe wants the pipe to be in good condition when they take it over. So we need to program that out as we move forward.
So this is part of our asset management plan?
Moving forward, yes.
Moving forward, okay. Any other questions and comments? Okay, we have a motion and appropriately seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, the item is approved for recommendation for the full commission. Item number 8.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Schaefer, Executive Director. The Commission is requested to adopt a resolution supporting the principles of the 2016 Paris Climate Agreement and reaffirm the district's commitment to reducing its greenhouse gas emissions and playing a leadership role in mitigating the potential impacts of climate change on the well-being of current and future generations. As the Commission knows, we passed a vision back in 2010, which really embodies a lot of what is written in the Paris Climate Agreement. Maybe they took our lead, I'm not sure, and wrote the Paris Agreement. But all of the work that we're moving towards converting to renewable energy sources, going with green infrastructure to manage some of the climate impacts that we're seeing along with stormwater management is very consistent with what's written in the Paris Agreement, and we feel it's important to express our support for those principles.
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
We have a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. This one is an important one. I think we send a clear message, and I take a lot of pride in this item right here. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, the item is approved for recommendation to the full commission. Item number 9, 17-086-9. Turn it over to staff.
The Commission is requested to approve the attached proposed amendment to Commission Policy 1-11.05. MMSD infrastructure includes green infrastructure, which provides for allowance of annual financial billing credits for green infrastructure initiatives for all non-member municipalities that formally request this credit. The purpose of the annual billing is to permit individual non-member municipalities the choice to opt out of district green infrastructure initiatives and request the green infrastructure credit. As you know, we've been implementing green infrastructure for many years at the district. We have been reimbursing communities for work that they do on green infrastructure. The revenues for that reimbursement comes in two different fashions. For the member communities, the 18 communities within Milwaukee County, we have the ability to tax on property tax to receive those funds, and it is in addition to what the community's property tax levy is, so it does not impact their levy limit that the in-county communities have. For the 10 out-of-county communities, non-member communities, we're not allowed to impose a property tax on them, but we bill them, we invoice them for the work for green infrastructure. When we invoice them, it does hit their property tax levy, so there's a financial disincentive for them to have green infrastructure, because if they have a levy limit, they have a defined dollar amount that they can go to, and if we use some of that for green infrastructure, it takes away from a local road or sewer or fire or police or whatever. So we've been approached by some of the out-of-county communities to talk about this credit. I do think it makes sense. We are trying to implement green infrastructure in the areas with a higher impervious area, and everyone is still going to have to implement something for total maximum daily loads, TMDLs, and green infrastructure is one of those approaches that they are going to have to probably implement to meet some of those goals. And we've heard from the communities that they're still going to implement green infrastructure. They're just not going to use our tax dollars that we provide them to do that.
Any questions?
Just a comment, if I may.
Go ahead.
I know that this was, I don't want to say hot button, it was a lukewarm button here that was initiated by some of the suburbs. And it's interesting because I think that if they wanted to really look at a prudent way to deal with this issue, they would have gone to the state legislature and asked for flexibility on the tax levy. Because if they were able to have that flexibility on their tax levy and weren't going to compete against roads, firefighters, libraries, it would enable their citizens to itemize that on their income taxes versus taking it off, which doesn't allow them to do that. So you're still going to have the same level of work hopefully being done based on state mandates. But this way, those residents aren't going to have that benefit of being able to itemize it. So as much as they may look at it as a win-win, I really think that it's something other than that, but it is what it is.
And Mark just passed me a note. Not all of the non-members put it on the tax bill. Some of them use a user charge to bill this, just for clarity.
So you don't see this impeding on future projects? No. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Oh, Commissioner?
What are your expectations as to how many of those 10 non-member communities are going to opt out versus how many are going to stay in?
So there's 10 non-member communities. I would think the majority will opt out of it just because of that disincentive through the financial taxing mechanism. I don't know exactly, but I would say most or a majority will opt out.
And how many of those are you confident will continue to do that type of work because they're required to by state?
He's asking these crystal ball questions.
I know, well, because I thought that the letter from Brookfield was very compelling. It basically said, listen, we're going to do this anyway. Because my concern is, you've got all these folks way upstream who are opting out of a program that we know is going to help water quality downstream and, the flooding issue downstream. So we're basically saying, okay, you can opt out. You're at the beginning of the stream, but we're going to let you opt out. Brookfield's letter pretty much says, but we're going to do it anyway because we have requirements. So how confident are you that those requirements are at least going to continue those municipalities' intent to not contribute further to flooding and pollution downstream? Because that's what I'm worried about. We're letting people opt out of a program we know works.
I think you said it very well. They're opting out of the funding, but they're not opting out of the work. And I think almost all of them will have to continue doing something along this line because of the TMDLs, because they're going to have MS4, their stormwater permits be renewed, and the DNR is very actively pursuing green infrastructure throughout the state. So it'll be a regulatory compliance issue for those communities to use green infrastructure. But I don't see any of them stopping green infrastructure. I think they're just looking to use funding from a different source. But that's a crystal ball again.
This is a tough one.
This is a tough one. Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? We have a motion. Any a second?
Second.
We have a second. Appropriately moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, the item is approved for recommendation to the full commission. Item number 10, 17-087-9, adoption of the commission policy, release of critical infrastructure information.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Catherine Lazarski, Senior Staff Attorney, and I'm sitting in for Susan Anthony today. The Commission is requested to approve the creation of a new Commission policy, Policy 1-21.03. This policy identifies a need to protect certain critical infrastructure information from unnecessary release to third parties, where such a release could pose a security risk or create vulnerability for the district. As the Commission is aware, the district is subject to the Wisconsin Open Records Law, which makes a great portion of our records available to the public. However, there is information that the district may seek to release after a balancing of the potential harm to the public interest against the benefit to the requester. The proposed policy provides a legislative basis from the Commission for the records custodian to undertake the balancing test and make appropriate determinations on a request-by-request basis.
This is pretty self-explanatory. Any questions or concerns from the commissioners? Seeing none?
Approval.
We have a motion and we have an appropriate second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, the item was approved for recommendation to the full commission. Item number 11, 17-88-9, approval of the lease to construct, operate, maintain a billboard on district property. Turn it over to staff.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Kaminsky, Director of Finance, Treasurer. The Commission has requested to approve and to direct the Executive Director to execute on behalf of the district a 20-year lease with Red Outdoor Media. The proposed lease will allow Red Outdoor Media to construct, operate, and maintain a billboard on district land approximately located west of 4343 South 6th Street, Milwaukee. The land was purchased for the Wilson Creek Flood Management Project. The lease will not impact that project or future operation of the flood management facility. The lease requires Red Outdoor Media to pay the district the greater of $1,667 per month, or 25% of the gross advertising space rent revenue. If the billboard is converted to digital, then the revenue to the district is greater than, then the revenue to the district is the greater of $2,000 per month, or 20% of advertising revenue as opportunity for revenue increases. The district's real estate staff reviewed other neighboring municipalities with their typical billboard lease documents, and this is consistent with the industry norms and these municipalities. If there are any questions.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there advertising ability for MMSD within this?
Yes.
And in how much?
Did you like that?
And how much? You might want to step up here.
He's the executive director.
Come up.
I pushed it right over there.
Could you identify yourself?
Could you outline the parameters of that agreement within that context, please?
Sure. Don Niemer, Controller for the district.
John Belinsky, Red Outdoor.
Talk about the provisions for that.
We've discussed this extensively. I'm actively involved in that neighborhood area. I believe in MMSD's mission. I think it's extraordinary, and I hope to work with MMSD and their advertising staff, and we'll always have availability to promote MMSD projects.
But the
And there'll be
billboard
no charge.
currently being installed is not digital, is that correct?
I hope to build it digital from the outset, but if there's a delay, I'll just build it as a static unit.
So the next step in the process would be a permit approval through the city of Milwaukee, in which time it would be determined if it would be a digital or a static billboard.
And with the fact that the district's limited sources of revenue, and we know our customers want to keep our rates down, this is a chance to use assets that we have, such as the land, and increase our revenue. This will reduce our user charge billings. And I know it's not a huge amount, but it's a cumulative. You got to start somewhere.
No, I get it, Mark. Conceptually, though, I think I could approve something conceptually today based upon the fact that the more important thing to me is our ability to get a message out here. Not so much the revenue, although that's keen, that's a big deal. But our message, we've been looking for opportunities forever to get our message out, and this is a great opportunity for that. On a consistent basis, by the way, in my mind. So I would hope that we can, as a commission, approve this in conception today while we figure out, number one, is this going to be a digital sign, and what access are we going to be able to have to it? And then how much access we're going to have to it, and be able to pin that within the agreement. Is that something possible?
Sure.
Yeah, the current agreement does not get into details in terms of
Correct.
the specific issue, but that is something that we can discuss and be prepared to discuss.
I think the commission would feel better about having that in an agreement so that we know our chances into the future of getting our message out and assisting this company in getting their messages out to their customers. But I think this is a keen opportunity for us to nail some of this down. I want to go forward with it today conceptually, let there be no doubt. But I'd also like to be able to put some real specifics in there about how MMSD gets to utilize it as well.
I wholly agree.
We'll try to put some language together and send it to the commission prior to the full commission vote. It's a really good idea.
And Kevin, I concur completely with my fellow commissioner. I think that this is a great opportunity to set a precedent of a templated format of how we want to move forward future opportunities, right? It sounds like there may be other opportunities. I'm not sure, where those assets are and how quickly we're going to be doing that. But if we set a precedent now that we're looking for, that is top of mind in that conversation with those other locations. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
No, it's a really good comment.
Gentlemen, thank you, and I commend you for the way it was written out. In my mind, I was going, yes, thank you for writing those things in. I look forward to kind of seeing this kind of follow through. So with that, any other comments?
You'll need a motion, though,
Right.
correct?
You need a motion? Yes.
Okay, and may I make that motion?
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, move that the commission today conceptually approve this agreement so that it can move forward on the basis that it does come back to us for a final approval based upon the content and context of the advertising clauses therein.
Yes. Second. And we have a second. So we have a motion, appropriately second. Any other comments or concerns? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, the motion is passed for full recommendation to the full commission.
Thank you very much.
I do want to say John's been a real partner on a lot of different initiatives in that neighborhood. I know he's been active with the aldermen in that neighborhood as well, so he's been really looking out for the neighborhood, and just wanted to thank him for that.
You're welcome. I look forward to promoting your projects.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. All right, item number 12, which is 17-89-9. Insurance coverage purchase or renewal of general operation and project owner's protection. I'll turn it over to Steph.
Okay, I was trying to decide how to present this. There's 4 components. So I think without trying to confuse it, I'm going to just do it one component at a time, and then we'll go through it that way. So the first, the commission's requested to authorize the executive director to renew, to purchase, or to direct the district's insurance broker to renew or purchase insurance policies for the policy period of October 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. And that's shown in your document as Table 1. And what I'll just comment on there, that the overall increase on those policies is $7,354 compared to the existing policies. Hayes Company of Wisconsin, our insurance broker, examined various lines that were marketed to ensure both premium and coverage was at or better than market for Table 1. Next, the commission's requested to authorize the executive director to renew, to purchase, or to direct the district's insurance broker to renew the workers' compensation third-party administrator contract for the policy period of October 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2020, as shown in Table 2. On this one, there's actually going to be a $5,858 decrease. And here, Hayes marketed and negotiated the third-party administrator contract. 7 companies were approached, and only 2 offered proposals due to the small number in claims and overall account size. Remember, we privatized our operations, so we don't have as many employees who would be impacted through workers' comp. The incumbent vendor, Gallagher Bassett, offered the best terms for the district on a 3-year contract basis. The district would change from a life of partnership contract to a handle to conclusion contract. That move to a handle to construction to conclusion approach eliminates tail billings on claims open beyond 3 years of handling and help lower the cost to the district. Third, the commission's requested to authorize the executive director to renew, to purchase, or to direct the district's insurance broker to renew or purchase project owner's protection insurance policy for the policy period of November 1, 2017 through September 30th, 2020, as shown in Table 3. On this one, there's a $49,175 increase. The expiring policy is a 3-year policy, which is common for this type of coverage. What we're changing here is trying to bring this in conclusion with September 30th, so it doesn't stand out at October 1. But the reason the dollars are going up is that there's actually Hayes negotiated a rate reduction with the current insurer, but our estimated construction values for the renewal policy period, as you look at our capital budget going forward, is going to increase, therefore calling for a 48% increase over the expiring policy. The premium difference by moving to a 35-month policy is $49,175, as I just mentioned. Finally, the Commission's requested to authorize the Executive Director to renew, to purchase, or to direct the insurance broker to renew and extend the property insurance policy for the policy period of October 1, 2018 through September 30th, 2019, as shown in Table 4. Our broker Hayes negotiated with AIG to keep rates flat for the district's largest expiring policy. As you can see in Table 4, there's no change, and this is approximately a $575,000 policy. By endorsing the current policy to include a 3rd year and maintaining a loss ratio under 50%, there is no rate increase for the 3 years 2018 through 2019, or 2019. With that, I'll answer any questions, and I have staff here and our insurance broker Hayes here if you have any specific questions.
I'll open it up. Questions, problems, comments? Are you satisfied with the due diligence process and making sure that you've got an adequate number of quotes and coverage estimates?
Yes, I'm very comfortable. I have a lot of confidence in Don Niemer, our controller, and our insurance broker Hayes, and it's been consistent. There is no significant increases in this, and the explanations that were provided to me made sense. And as you can see, we are, as you look on our capital side, we are going to more construction policy. We've been in a little lull. We've stated that, and that's why the one policy is going up. But yes, I'm very comfortable with this.
I'm satisfied. Any other questions, problems, concerns? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Commission?
Move approval.
Second.
Appropriately moved by Commissioner Bowe, seconded appropriately by Commissioner Perez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, the item is approved for consideration by the full commission. Item 13, 17-90-9, transferring additional money to debt service fund, and this will require 2/3 affirmative action on the commission side.
Correct. The Commission has requested to approve a transfer of $2,951,000 from working capital to the debt service fund, sinking fund for our district bonds, to abate the required 2017 tax levy for 2018 purposes to $98,380,000. For each district-issued bond or low-interest loan from the Clean Water Fund program of the state law requires the district to levy an irrepealable direct annual tax in an amount sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on bonds or notes for the following year. The required tax levy may be reduced in any year excuse me, by the amount of any surplus money in the debt service fund available to pay debt service. Table 1 details the calculation of the amount to be transferred to the debt service fund. Gross debt service to be paid in 2018 for tax-supported obligations is estimated to be $110,109,699. Gross debt service is reduced by surplus funds in the district debt service fund, resulting in net debt service of $101,331,000. This requires a transfer of $2,951,000 from working capital to the debt service fund. And it is also on the advice of bond counsel that the actual transfer of funds should occur in the month prior to the adoption of the tax levy. The Commission will be asked to adopt the 2018 tax levy on October 23, 2017. I'd like to point out that One, the reason we do this is our tax is only on 18-member communities, yet we service 28 communities. So that's why if we were taxing all 28, we would not be doing this process. And I also want to point out, because we do have a significant amount currently in our debt service fund, and part of that is premiums that were received on the issuance of bonds, specifically the 2017 issue and the 2015 issue. So that's why we're quite a bit in those funds, and our transfer is only $2,950,000. It's been over $20 million in prior years, but we are retiring our 2007 bonds on October 2nd, so that's why it's kind of decreased.
And you're retiring that at how much? What's
We were putting, our principal payments on the 2007 bonds were approximately $20 million a year because we deferred the principal to cover the years 13
okay.
to 17. So now that is off the books, another bond issue paid for in full. Any other questions?
Questions or comments from the commission? Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to remind the commission that since this does require the 2/3 vote at the commission level, if you are not going to be here next meeting for the commission meeting, please advise us as soon as you know that.
Good point.
Have the appropriate quorum in place.
And the reason why we want to transfer the money at the end of September is so that when you take the action in October on the tax levy, the money has already been transferred into the sinking fund so that we have the sinking funds plus the tax levy to meet our debt obligations.
I concur with my commissioner. It's important that we do make sure that we're here. We have several items that are going to need 2/3 affirmative vote for the full commission. So at this point, I will, if there's no other questions or comments, a motion?
Approval. Second.
Appropriately moved by Commissioner Bowles, seconded by Commissioner Hermes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, the item is approved for a recommendation to the full commission. That is our last item. But before we go into organizational and administration, I have one comment, Kevin, and not to belabor the issue on number 9. There is a question I do have. I would love to have that addressed, and it's a burning question for me. I think that if we have municipalities that are opting out and giving themselves that option, there will be no diminished quality or standards when it comes to the type of work that's being done that will negatively impact us in the long run. Are we monitoring that? Is there things in place that'll make sure that our system ties in with what they're doing, and that we're not going to have implications of, not up to standard or quality work?
Oh, absolutely. And we still have our rules that we impose on the 28 different municipalities. So it's through that rule-making process that we make sure that any changes or contemplated changes in a community are addressed here as well, so that we know if there's any downstream impacts on us. So I feel confident that we'll be able to keep the standards that we've had moving forward.
I appreciate that. I apologize for going out of order. It was a burning question that needed to be answered. Organization administration items, executive director report, Kevin?
Yes, we have the budget update for 2018, and Mickey left sick.
Yeah, her voice is...
So it's Mark.
Yeah, and it's not going to be the same to having my deputy finance director at my side to help me go through this, but I'll do my best. We're presenting the proposed 2018 operation and maintenance and capital budgets. We normally start with the capital budget, but this year we have a significant increase on the O&M, so we will start with the O&M budget. So the district staff is proposing a 11.5% user charge billing increase for 2018. This compares to a 12% increase that was projected a year ago as part of the 2017 O&M budget development. We're also projecting a 4% user charge billing increase in the year 2019, and that compared to a 5% increase that we had projected for 2019 a year ago. The reason that we still have a significant increase in 2019 is that the extension with Veolia Water in 2018 begins March 1, and then in 2019 we have the first full 12 months impact of that extension. We are projecting 2.5% increases for the years 2020 through 2023, and overall expenditures increased 12.8% or $11.5 million when compared to 2017 budget expenditures. So the 11.5% increase in user charge billings amounts to $8,638,000. The slide presented now shows how that $8,638,000 is created. The first two items are decreases. Without the increase in expenditures, we'd actually have a reduction in our user charge billing. The first one is that net of the contribution to the user charge stabilization fund, we're returning a larger surplus to our customers of $1,335,000. And then we also have an increase in other revenues of $1,575,000, and that's primarily due to a operating grant on the Kinnickinnick Habitat Improvement Project. And then we have some sewer cleaning related to PCBs that is not capital related, and we expect to have an insurance claim on that that will result in offsetting those expenditures. The primary reason for the increase is the extension to Veolia Water, which the Commission approved last year in June in 2016. The contract and changes in the contract that transferred scope to the district results in a $5,866,000 increase, or 67.9%. As I mentioned just a minute on the other revenues, we also have one-time expenditures in PCB sewer cleaning in the Kinnickinnick Habitat Improvement Project. That's $2,196,000, or 25.4% increase. Those two items there alone is approximately 93% of the increase. We have increases to machinery equipment of $1,200,000, or 13.9%. This is machinery equipment that is smaller in nature or does not qualify for funding under our capital budget. This is nothing out of the ordinary. It's expected as we have some of our smaller machinery equipment in terms of dollars and volume come to the end of their useful life. We have an increase in net fringes of $2,400,000. That's a combination of two items, approximately $1 million related to the district's employer contribution to the City of Milwaukee Employee Retirement System. The employees still contribute 5.5%, but this is the employer contribution. After the budgets have been adopted in November, we're expected to hear back from the Employee Retirement System about a change in their discount rate and their employer contribution amounts, and we expect that, along with some new accounting standards that require us to record the liability, our share of the liability of the unfunded portion of the pension. That's approximately $1 million. The balance of $1.4 million is due to retiree and active employee health insurance. Based on active claims we're seeing in 2017, or I shouldn't say active employee claims, but actual claims we're seeing through July of 2017, along with our insurance consultant recommending an 8% escalator, we're projecting a $1,400,000 increase in health insurance. And then all remaining other expenditures, when we combine them together, is a net decrease of $114,000. So that's the explanation of the 11.5% increase. This table just compares our increases to the national and local inflation rates. And as you can see on the bottom, we've averaged 3.37% over 10 years, 1.47 compared to inflation nationally, and 1.54 locally. Now, if you look at that, and if you take our 4% projection for 2019 and drop 2009, that 10-year average would drop to 2.59. And if you look at the years 2010 through 2007, the average is approximately 1.3%. Excuse me. So after the transition from one contract to another contract, and that happened in 2008 and 9, is going to happen in 18 and 19, we are very stable in approximate the inflation increase. Excuse me. Milorganite revenue increases in addition to our user charge billings. These are our primary other revenues and reserves. Milwaukee revenue is projected to increase $9 million or $650,000 over the 2017 budget. We have two standalone programs that are funded above and beyond the user charge billings. One is the Household Hazardous Waste Collection Program, which is paid for by residents in the 18 member communities, plus the city of South Milwaukee. And the 10 non-member communities do not participate. Excuse me. And then we have the Industrial Waste Pretreatment Program, which is paid for by our largest industrial certified waste strength and discharge customers. In both these programs, we're projecting no significant changes. As far as our reserves and surpluses applied, in 2016, we had a surplus of $7.5 million. We're going to contribute $2.5 million to our user charge stabilization fund, and we're going to return $5 million to offset our user charge billings in 2018. That was that $1,335,000 increase when compared to 17. And then our equipment replacement fund, which is a regulatory fund that we must maintain, we're going to contribute $175,000. Looking at the expenditure side, on an expenditure basis comparison, $11.5 million increase or 12.8%. We talked about the Veolia water extension, the fringes, the PCB cleaning, machinery equipment, connect, and then Milwaukee packaging is going up $231,000. As I mentioned on the slide prior, we're projecting an increase in Milwaukee revenue as Spence and his staff focuses more on the retail market. We're seeing a larger dollar per ton. I believe we budgeted $196 per ton in 2017, and we're actually seeing $226 per ton, and that's because we're focusing on this retail market. And when we focus on the retail market, we need more packaging, more bags. So yes, it's going up $231,000, but we're also seeing a larger increase in revenue. And then two decreases, the Veolia utility fee is decreasing by $500,000. Part of the reason for that is the district is removing landfill gas from the utility fee. They will pay 25% of natural gas and electricity. That's because the district made the capital investment in landfill gas and want to maximize the savings to our district ratepayers. And also it gives an incentive for Veolia to use all landfill gas possible since they won't have to pay for that, and then helps us them to keep down natural gas and electricity. And we pay 75% of the natural gas and electricity. And there we're seeing a $130,000 decrease based on lower consumption and lower rates. Looking forward, the operating contract expenditure full year impact will first hit in 2019. We anticipate increased replacement expenditures for machinery equipment at the end of the useful lives. Changes the employee retirement system employer contribution is going to be increasing our contribution by the employer, and that we'll know more about that in November. And then as we have projected in long-range financing plans, our user charge stabilization fund is adequate through 6 years. If we do not generate surpluses beyond 6 years, we may have an issue, but our track record has been to generate surpluses, so we should be able to address this issue. Now I'll go to the capital budget and quickly do a walkthrough on the historical perspective. In 2007, with the adoption of the 2020 facility plan, we had projected at that time 4.7% annual increases in tax levy from 2009 through 2020. And after the adoption of the 2020 facility plan, we added 2 major projects and 1 major program. The 2 projects are landfill gas with advanced disposal and now with waste management, and that added $103,600,000. And we added 30th Street Corridor, which added $38.8 million in capital expenditures. And then we introduced a new program, a new capital program, private property infiltration and inflow reduction, and that added $75.7 million in expenditures. However, even though we projected 4.7% and added these projects and programs, from 2008 through 2018, including the proposed 2018 tax levy, our average has only been 2.08%. So in 2018, staff is proposing a 0% tax increase, levy increase for 2018. This compares to 4%, is what we projected a year ago when the Commission adopted the 2017 Long-Range Financing Plan. Annual tax levy increases projected for the years 2019 through 2023 in the Long-Range Financing Plan remain at 4%. We are increasing a planned issuance of debt by $27 million compared to the 2017 six-year plan and still maintaining policy objectives. As we showed you with the O&M, this is now comparing annual tax levy increases to the national inflation rate and the local inflation rate. And as you can see, over the last 10 years, we were averaged 1.99%, slightly higher than the national average of 1.47 and 1.54 locally. Our two core financing objectives relates to our debt and cash financing. The district has approximately just under $1 billion of outstanding debt, of which 2/3 is the state of Wisconsin Clean Water Fund loans, which the district pays at lower interest rate than the market rate. And because of that, the district's commission adopted a debt policy that indicated that debt outstanding cannot be more than 2.5% of equalized property value. This is lower than what the state statutes allow, which is 5%. And our current projected highest level is this year at 1.52% and will be declining as we go forward over the next 6 years. The other key objective is cash financing. And what's important here is that the district just doesn't issue debt to lower our tax levy. We do try to average 25% cash financing over a 6-year period. And in some years we may be at 15%, but in other years we may be at 35%. And this is very important to the rating agencies and is one of the key reasons we have a high bond rating. This slide shows two things. It shows the amount of percentage-wise of debt outstanding to equalized value. And as I mentioned, 2017 was 1.52%, and that declines to in 2023 to 1.24%. So we're relatively low considering the amount of infrastructure the district has. On the right side, it shows expenditures for projects and programs in the capital budget versus debt service. And as you can see, by 2023, the projects and program expenditures will exceed the amount of debt service that we have per year. Some of the highlights in the 2018 capital budget in our 6-year plan, I'm going to walk through these. If you have specific questions, I have Mike Martin and Karen Sands can answer. We have a new rehab and replacement improvement projects totaling $30.7 million. In our water reclamation facilities of $30.2 million, and conveyance facilities, $500,000. We have some new water course work of $100,000. And then we also have $7.3 million on related to the 44th Street property restoration, North 31st Street demolition and deconstruction, conveyance system modeling, software improvements, development of a biological indicator framework, and the long-term CSO control plan update. Specific to the fiscal year 2018, $60.4 million in rehab and replacement of existing facilities, landfill gas, waste management's Metro landfill gas treatment system, and the dryer burner conversion to landfill gas. On the water course side, we have the Estabrook Dam removal, Western Milwaukee, and Kinnickinnick River. Also, in 2018, in late spring or early summer, we have the completion of the 2050 facility plan. And in that plan, we will also have an external resilience plan. We have fresh coast solutions and green solutions. From the capital perspective, these are the challenges as we go forward. We need to maintain an affordable and sound financial strategy without the district jeopardizing its current strong financial positions. Our asset management system continues to identify assets that will need to be replaced. As I mentioned, we will be implementing the 2050 facility plan recommendations. And if I drop down to the last bullet, those recommendations will impact our projected annual increase of 4% in tax levy for years beyond 2019. And they could increase it or decrease it. All depends on the recommendations and the prioritization of those recommendations. And then we're always trying to balance the district's debt service obligations, maintain our assets, meet our permit requirements with the affordability to the customers, to our customers. Now, I've walked through both the O&M and capital budget, and what does this mean to the residents that are paying those rates on both O&M and capital? And we'll use a $200,000 home as an example, but from the O&M perspective, in 2018, the average annual household user charge is estimated to increase to $138.26, an increase of 11.5%, or $13.84 when compared to 2017's dollar amount of $124.42. That's an annual charge. The approximate tax bill for a $200,000 home in 2018 will be $345.13, an increase of 1 cent. And the total annual increase when you combine both of those budgets on that $200,000 household is an estimated $13.85 compared to $10.54 increase in 2017. So just over $1 a month higher than in 2017. The total cost is $483.39, or an average daily cost of $1.32 to provide both our operation and maintenance services and our capital improvement. And then finally, the timeline. The proposed budget has been published. It is September. We have a public hearing September 25th in West Dallas at the City Hall at 6 o'clock. And then we have another one here before the committee meetings on October 9th at 8:30 in the morning. We ask the commissioners if they have any amendments to propose those and submit those by October 2nd so we can have those ready for discussion on October 9th. We will have an ad hoc user charge committee meeting in October prior to the October 23rd adoption of the budgets. And then the last bullet, the budget adoptions will be on Monday, October 23rd. And with that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
It's a lot of information, I know. But I'm hoping that everybody had the opportunity to sit through the budget hearings and meetings leading up to today. Any questions or comments? I have one comment, and it's to the staff. I have to commend you year over year. I think that you've demonstrated to me personally, being in banking now for almost 25 years, not only your command, but your strategic planning efforts for this district, for this organization, continues to be outstanding. And you clearly articulate where we're at, where we're heading, and you answer all our questions clearly, articulately, and we're very lucky to have you and your team working on these budgets and clearly making sure that we are heading in the right direction. So I commend you. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's more than me because it's things such as facilities planning.
Right.
Without that, without asset management, without Mike's staff, it makes my job easier.
But I've also seen that as well, and I know I ask a lot of questions, so I try to drive you crazy a little bit. But it is with that notion that I do go in, try to prepare with questions, and you've always been able to answer them, either at the meeting or prior to our commission meeting. So I appreciate that. Any questions?
We do have one closed session item.
We do, okay. So with that, we will go into closed session. Motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 and for the purpose as set forth on the published notice and agenda.
Second.
Need a motion? We got a
So moved.
motion? So moved?
Second.
And a second, appropriately seconded by Commissioner Bowl. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? We will be reconvened in closed session.
Thank you.
After a recess.
After recess, 3
If I could
minutes?
start reading.
5 minutes? 5 minutes.
An MCM production.